Right then, the 7 days has elapsed and we can finally polish up our body. So we're going to flat it all back with 6 and 8,000 Trizic pads. We've got some fresh water in the pot with a drop or two of washing up liquid. We're going to go around, being careful of all the raised areas and corners, and just gently flat back the surface. Now, the 2K job on this was absolutely amazing out of the airbrush, so we've not got a lot of work ahead of us. But obviously, by using the Trizic pads, we're getting rid of any dust that may have landed in there. And we're also thinning out the 2K a touch as well. And this will shine even better once it's been flatted back and polished. Trust me, it is always worthwhile flattening back and polishing up your bodies. They will always look better. So just take your time, work your way around nice and slow. Just watch those raised areas and corners. And keep the sponge wet. Very important. You don't want any friction. You want lubrication. Just take your time working your way around. Now, I'm just going to show it the 6,000 all over, and then we'll just whiz through the 8 very quickly. But the Trizic pads are absolutely amazing. I've tried quite a few different polishing systems, sanding systems over the years, and nothing beats these Trizic pads. They are absolutely amazing. They're not cheap. They're a bit difficult to get a hold of in the UK, and by the look of it, everywhere else in the world. But they sand so efficiently, and they leave no scratch marks behind. They're just absolutely beautiful. I buy them in discs and cut them down to smaller sizes, and one disc will last you a long, long time. I can get 4 or 5 cars out of one piece easily. So yeah, they're well worth looking. So 6 and 8,000 is what I use. So there's a 6,000 done, or is it? No, that's still the, yeah, that is the 6 still. Just doing the finishing touches. So because it's so efficient, it doesn't take as many swipes of the pad. So just be aware of that and don't go too crazy sanding. Very easy to burn through if you're not careful, and very hard to fix as well if you do. So there we go. This is 6 done, but now on to the 8. I'm just going around systematically again, giving it all a good sand back. Like I say, just be aware of all the edges. Now we've got our Menzerner 2,500 with our medium sponge on our Proxon drill. I'm just going to take a little bit out and rub it on. A little bit too much there. Oh, I've gone back for more. Okay. Don't think I needed more there, Paul. But anyway, we're going to finger rub it all in. That way it reduces the spray off the mop or the sponge as we go around. Now, I was using my Hairzo battery power drill, but the bloody thing keeps running out of battery before it gets to the end of the build, and I have to resort to the Proxon. The Proxon on the slowest speed is exactly the same, and it's on a foot pedal, so it's actually easier to use. You don't have to keep stopping to switch it on and off. So I've just resorted to using the Proxon. All you got to be careful of is you don't catch that hard plastic yellow piece on the body, because it will damage it if you're not careful. Don't fully press down on the sponge. If you just compress it a little bit, like I'm doing right there, that is more than enough to polish everything up. It's a case of systematically working your way around. And again, you're using a medium sponge with a coarse compound, well, a medium compound. Just be careful, don't leave it in the place for a long time. I've sped this up, I've not gone Superman. Don't leave it in the same place for too much, and be careful of all those corners and edges, because it will burn through. But this is by far the most efficient way of polishing. And again, it's a system I've tried before, was never that impressed with. But I think combined with the Menzerner, this stuff is unbeatable. This is just after the compound. This is the harshest one. And just look at that shine already. It's absolutely beautiful. So if you've not tried these, we will have them back in stock soon on Pro Scale. And there we go. Once we're happy, each section at a time we wipe off, then we move on to the next one. So a couple of hours work here doing this. As you can see, I've got my handy little box at the top full of polishing pads and Trizic pads as well. There we go. It does an absolutely fantastic job polishing the body up. And again, at some point I'll probably do a standalone video showing this, but It's fairly self-explanatory, to be honest. It's just taking care of all the edges. Don't leave it too long or you'll burn through. And again, make sure you got plenty of compound on there or polish, so you're not polishing or compounding dry. There we go. Also doing the smaller carbon bits. We need to be careful of these, because one snag, it'll snap them or fling them across the room. So again, using the Mazda 2500 with the compound, coarse compound sponge. We can get all these polished up at the same time. There's a few of them to do there. And of course the wing mirrors, which have gone AWOL. I don't know where they've gone. So we can't even polish the wing mirrors. In between changing Mazda compounds, because we're going to go to the 3500 next, I got my old toothbrush in the panel lines, getting rid of as much of the previous compound before we move on to the lesser abrasive 3500. So we've also changed the pad in our Proxon. We've gone down to all the fine ones. And again, exactly the same process. Nice and gentle all over the body. Just be aware of that yellow piece. Don't catch it on anything. And there we go. Work our way around till it's all done. With it all done, polished up, we've done the super resin polish exactly the same as well. We're now here for masking. So we've had it in the paint booth and we've blasted out all the polish from the seam line, from the panel lines as well, as you've seen me do before. I'm pretty sure I had the footage, but I don't know where it's gone. Once it's all cleaned up, we can then mask the windows for the black work. So tricky one to do on this. That rear window is going to be an absolute nightmare with the acetate clear. It is what it is. A quick 5-minute spray in the booth with some Mr. Service 1500 black and a careful unmask. And there we go. There's all our windows done. And to this stage, it starts to add a bit of depth to the vehicle and make it look a bit more realistic because you've added the depth of the windows. So again, a tedious job, but the better job you do, the better it will look. And I prefer doing this after 2K because it gives us a semi-gloss surface for the shea glue to grab. And I think it sticks better to a more porous semi-gloss finish than a high gloss 2K. Quick polish up to remove the masking tape residue. And this thing is looking absolutely beautiful. That red paint is as deep, you could swim in that. It is that deep. Beautiful. Some Vallejo colour black, thinned down with a drop of water. A 6-foot long paintbrush. These are some cheap paintbrushes I got off Amazon. And it's quite deceiving how big they are on Amazon when you get them. It's like a barge pole. I was like, what the hell? But you know what? For the money, I think it was about £6-7 for 6 of these or 5. They're actually pretty good brushes, to be fair. So I just use this. We've brush painted all inside the interior. And now we're doing the wheel arches as well. We're using a water-based paint. This will literally just wipe off the 2K with a dry cotton bud if needed. It really does work well. And the solution for the backlights, because they don't fit, is we're going to brush paint this in. We're going to go over where it sits. We'll then set the glass in place, get it glued in, and with a moistened cotton bud, we'll remove any excess black from where it can't be seen. Like I say, the rear glass for the lights is a little bit short, so this was a necessary step. So I could have masked and sprayed it, but it would have been a nightmare to do, so I opted to hand paint it instead. Now, we can start assembling a little bit of the interior, so we can get our dashboard in first. A little bit of Ciego underneath, and then a little bit around the edges. Oh, I'd add a little bit more on top. There we go. That's that glued in place. Then the rear seat needs to go in. This is where test fitting pays off, so you know where everything goes. So the rear seat slots in at the back like so. Making sure it's in place, and then we're going to glue that in as well. I've separated the back a touch, just so we can get our CA glue precision nozzle in. Then we'll push it down, hold it for a second or two. Then the door cards, I'm just going to test fit them first, and then we'll glue them in place. So there we go. I'm just going to put a bit of super glue on the body. I must have had some on my finger from the rear bench. You can see it there. It's quite a big piece. It was at least 1 centimetre long. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. So first off, wipe off as much as you can quickly with a cotton bud. Then using some super glue debonder, very gently rub over it till it removes. Now, I know somebody tried this, and I won't mention their name, and it burned through the 2K. I'll use a code name. We'll call them Mr. Parent. Oh, no, that's too obvious. We'll call them Dan. That'll make it less obvious. And he burned through the paint with his debonder, unfortunately. So make sure you test it on an inconspicuous spot. I've had no problems as of yet. But yeah, just test it so you don't have a problem with Mr. Anonymous. Yes, his name will remain anonymous. Yeah, so we've got the most of it off. Sadly, it has left a mark there. So we are going to have to rectify that. So the best way of doing it is we'll go through the standard procedure again. So 6,000 and 8,000 Trizac to get rid of the mark. So what it's done, it's kind of like etched itself in the 2K. I've got rid of all the actual CA glue off the body, but it's kind of like melted itself into the 2K. Because it was proper CA glue, rather than the Bob Smiths, it's really etched itself in there. But we will get rid of it completely. So 6,000 and 8,000 Trizac, just keep repeat, rinse, rinse, repeat if needed, until you get rid of the floor. And then we're going to polish it all back up, and it won't even be noticed that it'll be completely gone forever. This is where the Trizacs come in really useful on doing things like this. And this is why I like using 2K, because any problems like this can be easily repaired, whereas using a thinner clear coat, you probably won't be able to get this out. So there we go, with that all sanded out, we give it a final go over with our 8,000 just to smooth it out a bit. There we go. Then we'll come in with our compounds again, 2,500, 3,500 and the autoglim. Going through the alternate compound sponges as well, and you won't even know this was here. It's absolutely flawless once they're finished. So this is where it pays to be conscious of where your hands are, what's on them, because this literally took me 15 minutes to do this. 15 minutes that I didn't want to spend repeating what I've already done, but thankfully it was time well spent, because as I say, it was gone. It was completely flattened and polished out, and this is the main reason why I love 2K so much. It is so resilient. It works absolutely brilliant. So last step, a little bit of autoglim polish. We can give her a final buff up, spreading around the compound. And then there we go, our final buff over. So yes, a silly mistake, but thankfully easily rectified with a little bit of elbow grease. So don't be afraid of touching things up. Not in that way, but don't be afraid of fixing stuff. If you make a mistake, try your best to fix it. I could have left that, you probably would have never noticed. But for me, the way this paint's looking, this paintwork deserves that extra time. And there we go, all gone. Perfect. And that's just done for part 2. We'll be back for part